Hey guys, what it do? It's your boy Supreme Uchiha, the God. I just want to ask a quick question. If somebody asked you, what's the most disappointing show you've seen? What would you say? What would that title be? Comment that shit down below. Please comment that shit. Comment that below. For me, gotta be Boruto right now. I mean, I was disappointed by Tower God, the anime. But golly, I was disappointed by Boruto. Like, I tried. I watched like the first 50 episodes and it was garbage, bro. It was like, it was with nothing relevant happened, bro, for like 50 episodes. I was like, dang. So, I want to talk about how, and the manga is okay. Like, some people like the manga. I still don't think it's great, but it's okay. But this is how I would fix both the manga and the anime from the jump, right? So this is kind of like, we're gonna try to convert this disaster into a masterpiece, right? If you look at any manga sites, whatever, the ratings on that shit is so low. Like, people do not fuck with it. People are pissed off that like their favorite shit got absolutely annihilated. However, I'm not fully blaming the current author. I'm actually blaming Kishimoto a good bit, because he kind of fucked up the war arc, and that kind of made it hard for anything after that to be properly conveyed, right, without retconning some of Naruto. So what I would do, instead of what, the other son ended up doing, the current author, his ex-assistant, whatever, this is how I would fix Boruto and turn it bit into a masterpiece. So first thing that kind of annoyed me is all the guys that Naruto knew, essentially, minus Bogard, Bogard, the teacher, minus Bogard, Shino, all of them got kids, essentially. Everybody got a kid. I think that's a bit too much. I think some of these motherfuckers got to be single. Some of these motherfuckers will build single. I don't know how some of these people are in a relationship. You're not, to be honest with you. So I would change that aspect of it. It's too clean cut. Everybody that you thought might end up together somehow ended up together. I wouldn't have that. All the kids being around the same age and to be in the same class, I wouldn't have none of that. So I'd keep Boruto and Sarada in the same age bracket. I'd probably have Boruto be maybe a year older or a year younger, right? I'll have them be the same age bracket. I'm okay with both of them being the same age, just because the story has to happen, you know what I'm saying? So I would have now Boruto and Sarada be the same age, and I'll still have Mitsuki the clone, and those three, the story would center around those three. Now, instead of having Metal Lee, having, goddamn Shikadai, all of them dudes, I would have completely new kids, right? And I'd still have them, Shikadai and stuff, but they'd either be way older or way younger. You know what I'm saying? So, because this is a good few years after, so I'd have them be either way older or way younger. So I would have a varied age rate. So you'd still meet some of these guys, but the age, they wouldn't be in the same age grade. You know what I'm saying? They wouldn't be in the same age group. Rock Lee's one, Metal Lee. I'd probably have him be a little kid. Be like the Konohamaru of the series, right? So he would take that role because, again, it'd be more interesting, I think, to have that, right? Instead of all of them being the same. So that's what I would change. Shoji, all of them, choose an age range, right? They won't be that relevant to the story anyway, so I'd keep them all out. Then the story would just mainly focus on Mitsuki, right? Sarada, Boruto, and a bunch of new casts. And here's where you can get super creative, right? They're in a time of peace. So this is an opportunity to have some kind of globalization thing set true, right? Because again, some people, might move villages because of the previous war, right? A lot of places were destroyed. A lot of people died. A lot of families were left, disassembled. Thousands and thousands of people died. So you can have like some families that took refuge here, let's say to Konoha, some, you know what I'm saying? You don't have to bring in the real world aspect of it if you don't want to, whatever. But I'd have that, so that way you'd have more interesting people come through. So you might have somebody from another village, like, and even people from the Sand Village, because those so in such close relationship, you can even have some of those families kind of mix and intertwine, because the two Hokages are essentially brothers. So, people feel free to kind of live wherever. So you have some sand people there with interesting powers, whether it be puppetry, whether it be a new type of sand move, whether it be a completely new type of jutsu. It opens doors, right? So you can have some of these lesser known villages, or create a few villages that the other show never, talked about, because we know that there's way more villages than the villages that they talk about, right? So you can have motherfuckers from like the village hidden in the fucking wayside, you know what I'm saying? You can have them pull up and join the school because, because of the war and how many people they lost, they don't have enough kids in that age range that they can put in the same class. So instead of having one student be taught that they're because again, they got trains now, all of that shit, they're sent to commute to school. So they go to school, most of the week and come back like one day. I mean, they're ninjas anyway. These motherfuckers be disappearing. So they go to school and maybe live alone, or maybe their parents moved with them just for safety, etc., etc. You can have all of these aspects, right? And I think it creates a way more interesting cast of characters, because Metal Lee's Rock Lee, we've seen Rock Lee. You know what I'm saying? Shikadai Shikamaru, we've seen Shikamaru. You know what I mean? So it's like, give us some new people, some new interesting folks. So that'll be the first major change that I would make to the whole goddamn show, right? Second, if we're gonna talk about the villains, bro, you know what? The show has really good villains. But I would remove all of Kaguya's clan, all of that. I would remove all of that side of the story, right? At least in part 1, I'd completely remove them in part 1. They could be like behind stuff and all of that stuff, but I think Jigan is brilliant, right? I think Jigan is brilliant. I think the Jiraiya guy, I don't know if it's been confirmed if it's Jiraiya or not, but him, I think he's brilliant as well. I'd actually keep that whole team. I think they're all brilliant, right? But what I would do is I'd have them, like, maybe a subsidiary of them be, I'd have them like play a role, but I kind of what the Akatsuki was, right? If you look in Naruto, not Shippuden, just Naruto, the Akatsuki, we talk about the Akatsuki, we meet the Akatsuki, and there's a few fights with the Akatsuki, right? And they only show like a percentage of themselves, right? And they absolutely just insanely powerful. You're like, damn, bro, you know what I'm saying? You meet Itachi, you meet Kisame, you're like, wow. You know what I'm saying? How are you know what I mean? You do that. So I would do the same thing with Jigan and his team, right? And I'd have people like Kawaki still play the roles that they play essentially. How Kawaki joins the family, all of that stuff. I'd have all that aspect of it, right? I'd keep Naruto and Sasuke there, but they would be taking care of the major threats. You know what I'm saying? I would keep, because what we have to understand is in Naruto, like, we only had, we had Lady Tsunade. She was essentially the top dog of the village, right? So, because she's the top dog, obviously, and there wasn't really that many elite ninjas apart from Guy and Kakashi, it was hard for them to, to spare the kids or whatever. I mean, again, the ninjas, they're meant to live and die. Kakashi went to war, all of that shit, so it's whatever. So I'd have Sasuke still go on his errands because it makes sense. He has to do SS class missions. I'd have Naruto kind of be similar, but I definitely have him like overwork himself but still try to make things. I think I'm okay with that aspect. I know it's against his character and stuff like that, but I think it's been so long throughout the years, we can have him like he was there, and then when he took over the Hokage role, he just less and less time he spent with the family because he's tired all the time, all of that stuff, and he has to actually pay attention to stuff. He has to go meet other Kages to keep the treaties and peace and all that. I'd have him kind of travel as well, so that way but obviously I wouldn't even have any major threats happening in part 1 like that. I'd have major threats, but it'd be like containable instead of having Momoshiki. Like, what the fuck? Like, that's the first villain they be fighting, fucking Momoshiki. Don't even make sense. So then you have Jigan's team and all of that doing their thing. I'd still have the whole ninja tool thing. I think that's such a creative idea, and I think it creates like a new type of threat, right? So I'd have like the samurai family thingy. Those guys, they'll be like using that, they'll steal that because they don't have jutsus like that, right? So I'd have them steal that from Konoha, and that will start friction, right? Because they won't admit to doing it. Okay, so I'd still have the Mist arc, but the Hokage wouldn't be involved because it just makes him look so fucking weak. The Hokage wouldn't be involved at all, and I would let the kids deal and handle with that whole situation. I think with those changes alone, like, I think you already have a much more solid base, right? I'd have, the anime is very focused on, like, this episode they have this problem and they solve it within the episode, instead of like a long story arc. Though it is kind of way underneath, but there's no clear cut like this is leading to this, that's leading to this, that's leading to this, right? The tuning exam, all of that stuff. I'd actually change the tuning exam. It's kind of weird that the tuning exam is in the Leaf Village again. So I'd have the tuning exam somewhere else, a completely different village. A village that we don't really know that well even. You know what I'm saying? Maybe a new village rose into prominent power after the war. Because of the war, some people stole a few bodies, took a few powers. I'd have all of those aspects play a role, right? Because, especially since how much more advanced they are now, they can now use those bodies to like do crazy shit, take dojutsus, take all type of shit. You know what I'm saying? So it could be like a secret technique. You can create so many secret techniques because there's so many family lines that the show doesn't fully cover. So you can take those aspects and create something way more intriguing, right? So you'd have a bunch of new villages, some popping up with power, some kind of flopping a little bit because they lost so many manpower, etc. You know what I mean? And then you could have Jigan and them maybe run one of these villages underground type shit, kind of like the Akatsuki. We don't want them to be too Akatsuki like, but maybe they have their own like setup. Actually, we keep them the way they are. You know what I'm saying? How they're kind of running the system. I actually kind of fuck with it. So whatever the way they're doing it, we just keep it that way, right? Then you have if you look at like where the narrative, right, how the story would go linearly, right? So I'd have Boruto and Sarada would know each other since they were kids, right? Because the parents are best friends, all of that stuff, right? I'd still have them both respect each other's parents more. I think that's completely fine and reasonable. And it's normally kind of what this type of stuff happens. So I'm completely okay with all of that. So now, I like that they're not necessarily rivals. I like that because it changes the dynamic of Naruto and Sasuke, right? You don't want the exact same narrative being repeated here. So I'd have them be super close friends and super cool with her. I'd remove all the sexualization of Sarada in the manga. That's just weird as shit. Like, she's wearing like shit like, I don't know, like for a 12-year-old is wild. You know what I'm saying? If you want to give her that type of like, woman freedom, just make them a bit older. But whatever. So I'd have them, let's say at 12 or whatever, doing the test. And there's no real trouble until the prep for the tuning exam. So I'd get to the tuning exam really rapidly, right? So how I would do that is, so they do that mission, the mission where they go to the bridge. And they end up, Konohamaru actually has a cool moment for once. Konohamaru, I'd make him OP. I'd make him stronger than Kakashi was immediately. As a kid, this kid could make a giant Rasengan, was fighting Naruto, all of that shit. And he's supposed to be a rival of Naruto in the future. So I'd make him way stronger. Like 5 times stronger at least. He'd be way more powerful. I know he has some moments here and there, but him struggling against a white Zetsu, I don't know if you count it as canon or not. Even in the manga, to be honest, I find him pretty useless. I wouldn't put him in scenarios that forces him to be useless. You know what I'm saying? So if you look at Kakashi's moments, right? Whenever Kakashi was rendered useless, it was mainly he was fighting the tougher opponent. He was dealing with the bigger threat. Then he dealt with that threat. You know what I'm saying? That's what I would do. That's how I would go about it, right? And then have, the kids team up to face the other threats. Now you also have somebody like Mitsuki who's OP as shit, but he's not allowed to use his Sage mode by Orochimaru, which is a great nerf to keep him contained, right? So they could go on like, kind of like those type of missions where it's like they learn things, they learn about the world, they learn how not everybody benefited from the war, not everybody. Maybe they also start learning about how people fear Sasuke and some people like, know what he did and like how, what I'm saying? Those type of things should be brought up. Or even how some people fear Naruto and the power that the Leaf Village has, and how some villages are actually plotting against this. Some villages are like, we need to get rid of those guys because they're too fucking powerful. They could literally overtake the world at any stage type shit, right? So the problem shouldn't just be Giganten. It should be a lot of smaller villages or some bigger villages, some places even further away, right? That are looking and they're like, yo, this is not good. We need to figure out a plan, right? And so this could be how Jigan and them maybe get the fundings and get, you know what I'm saying, have so much influence because so many people underground want the Leaf Village to fall, want the Leaf Village to flop, right? So if you have that kind of base, bro, I think it's extremely easy to then create a phenomenal story and not be boring, repetitive, or feel like they're the same. Actually, in many ways, it could potentially be better than Naruto because I think you have way more option, you have way more freedom. Sarada ain't going nowhere. You know what I'm saying? Boruto ain't going nowhere, right? And then you got Kawaki, and he's such a phenomenal and interesting character. You know what I'm saying? He'll be the rival character, right? And then you have Mitsuki already there. You know what I'm saying? So Kawaki's the one that Boruto is trying to save, right? And you still kind of keep that tone, but you know, obviously if Sasuke got saved, Kawaki can't be saved. That's one thing that frustrated me about Naruto. Everybody got goddamn saved. Fucking Obito got saved. Fucking Pain got saved. Fucking Toku no Jutsu. Throw that bitch out the window. Right? So Kawaki, when he eventually goes bad and kills Sasuke or Naruto, depending on, you know, whatever the story eventually demands, you know, that should be the moment where it's like, I have no choice but to end this man. You know what I'm saying? And they should have a great relationship all the way until they're like, you know, it's the teenage years. And that's when like they're going on certain types of missions and they're facing certain type of people, and Kawaki is responding a certain type of way. Like he's overly aggressive, like he's murking the innocent around. He pays no attention to who's around, and it's like you have Boruto jumping in trying to save an innocent person, like, yo, there's a kid there, like, watch your jutsu. You know what I'm saying? Those little subtle things should be built upon. And then you have the problem with Mitsuki as well, and him figuring out his humanity. You know what I'm saying? Maybe he goes on his own solo type of journey where he, you know, he frees himself from Orochimaru, and, you know, maybe we finally end Orochimaru, even though he's quote-unquote a good guy in this. There should be, I don't really understand how he's even, you know, allowed to be how he is, but whatever. We'll find a way for him to free himself from Orochimaru. It doesn't have to be necessarily fighting him or anything, but he frees himself from that baggage. He could have like an emotional journey, and he could be super nerfed because of him learning about humanity. And then when he does, he frees himself from that and frees himself from that cage, and he's like, this is who I am, this is what I am. I don't need Boruto, I don't need Orochimaru, I am myself regardless. And that's when he like levels up. So he could be like, you know, the sporadic guy. Sometimes he's like super lit, sometimes he's not. You know what I'm saying? Sarada, she gotta be all around lit. You know what I'm saying? She's supposed to be the future Hokage. She gotta be all around fucking phenomenal, all around useful. You know what I'm saying? I feel like currently Boruto does way too much. He's too goddamn OP. I feel like they should, you know, maybe, I think that's okay that the team is like that elite, but then they should send them in way harder missions. And especially since they have Konohamaru, who in my version is OP as fuck, you know what I'm saying, he's gonna let them do a lot of the hard part, and only when he senses danger he pulls up for the save. And a few times he has to do that, not all the time, a few times he has to do that. Sometimes he makes it a bit late and, you know, somebody gets really hurt. You know what I'm saying? But this is necessary for these ninjas. You know what I'm saying? And you can build up to that. Jigan and all them. You can create villains around that. People, puppets that they're sending. Jiraiya. I'd remove the whole time reverse thing. Nah. Like, when you get to time traveling, that shit too much, bro. I'd remove all the time travel shit. Right? And they don't figure out is Jiraiya or whatever until way later. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, those are some of the basic changes I would make to, I think, elevate Boruto into a top tier shit, you know what I'm saying? And with the time skip, I'd actually have the whole Team 7 broken up, you know what I'm saying? Boruto is on his own team because he wants to rebel from his father. Sarada is trying to keep everything together, and she's, you know, she's lauded as one of the strongest ninjas in the village, and, you know, she has to stay responsible because of what she wants to be, right? You have Kawaki, who's like kinda you know, maybe create his own faction. It's not really pro Jigan or anti, you know what I'm saying? He kind of creates his own lane, his own bandits. He's like a hacker, right? He's almost like a Sasuke in that way, where but he you know, he's still not negative to the village type shit, right? He can be negative to the village later. And then you have, you know what I'm saying, you have Mitsuki who returns. So it's Mitsuki and Sarada that kind of lead Boruto Shippuden, right? And you know, when they meet Boruto again, it's like, you know what we gotta do. When they fight people, you know, eventually at some point the team gets back together. Maybe Kawaki dies, you know what I'm saying? Boruto is a very Sasuke type character, so maybe he ends up leaving the village. I don't know about the endings and shit like that, but this is kind of the key elements that I would bring forward to the story that I think would make it just overall much better, you know what I'm saying? What do you think? And also I think it make it more focused on these particular characters instead of having like Metal Lee and Shikadai, and now we want to know about them, we want to know about this, we want to know about that, and it was just too many characters, you know what I'm saying? I'd also would have kept Sai single. Like, it's weird that Sai is in a relationship. He also became very fucking irrelevant in War Arc and all that stuff, you know what I'm saying? I'd maybe give him his own type of vibe, you know what I'm saying? Maybe he goes on a journey across the world to, like, I don't know, do some shit. But those are my thoughts, man. What do you think? Comment that shit down below. I don't know if the video dragged a little bit, my bad. You know, I'm just freestyling and giving ideas here. But yeah, it's been your boy Supreme Cheer to God. Leave a comment, subscribe, all that gang shit. I'm out.
I got friends now. You ain't know, but I got friends now. I'm balling out with my friends now. You ain't know what I got friends now.